there now. So make sure you've got all other streaming devices turned off so that you've got the maximum available bandwidth while we're live together, because as y'all know, bandwidth can die if you've got too many things going at one time. So make sure you've got the maximum available bandwidth available to you while we're on live. So we're going to be talking today about the second part of the system that I use for helping people become thriving artists. Remember, we talked yesterday about the importance of an online platform to create a thriving studio practice and business. And that online platform is made up of 3 components or pillars. The first is the website. The second is the social media hub. And the third is the email list. And remember, it's crucial to have that no matter what direction you want to go in order to make an impact in the world. That you're not going to be able to reach the people that you want to reach and make the change and difference in the world that you want to make unless you've got all 3 of those things going. So make sure that you understand those components before you go any further in developing your online business. So once you have those, it's time to figure out how to grow an audience, because an engaged audience will give you the people who are interested in your work, who potentially can become buyers, collectors, or curators, gallerists, people who are going to take you along on your success path. So we're going to talk about the top 3 mistakes that artists make, especially on social media, but in general as well, and what to do instead, how to grow your audience without relying on paid traffic, even if you don't have a list, and what to do if you have no list, no time, and think nobody's going to pay you for your art. So let's dive on in. Let me make sure here first that we've got the stream going in the group without any problem. Sometimes it does not show up, and I believe Carson is on to grab any questions over there that come in. And as well, brownie points for anybody who takes notes and shares them over there in the Facebook group. So play note takers, somebody, and share those with everybody else in the group. Same for y'all who are on here on Zoom. Feel free to share any notes that you take in the comments on the replay that goes up later. I think that helps everybody to check what they're learning and make sure that they're really on track there. Hey, Casey, it's good to see you. So when we're looking at the biggest mistakes that artists make in trying to grow an audience, the first is attempting to please and appeal to everyone. So years ago, when I first started teaching entrepreneurship for artists, it was at the college. And one of the students, they had an assignment to create a business plan for their art business. And one of the things that they had to identify was who their target market was going to be. And she wasn't the only one by a long shot. And if you're watching, because I know some of them are on, I know you're broader. I mean, you've got your niche narrowed down now. But her niche, the target audience that she was trying to appeal to, was everybody on the internet. And the problem with that is that if you're trying to appeal to everybody, you're going to appeal to nobody. So that you're not going to benefit from trying to go really broad and try to appeal to everyone. That waters down your brand significantly. There is tremendous power in a niche, in a small, narrow segment, and going really, really deep there. In fact, there's a great saying that I love that's when the riches are in the niches. Hey, Nancy Medina, it's good to see you. So the riches are in the niches. Remember yesterday I talked about um, the problem with spreading yourself out and trying to paint to the market, paint what you perceive the market is going for. That's a real similar problem. So remember that the riches are in the niches. So you're going to be 10 times better off specializing in something. Follow your curiosity. If you've been following along on the creativity hacks, follow your curiosity to decide what subject it is you're going to work on that is going to sustain your interest and your passion over a long haul. Don't scattergun it. Don't try to offer and build significance around a dabble here, a dabble there, and a dabble everywhere, because that's not going to appeal to anybody. When you're trying to figure out what your niche is, a lot of people kind of go about this the wrong way. They are diving into too much. They dive too far into who they're thinking that they're serving, like the demographics of it. They're looking at women over 45, men under 65, people living on the West Coast, people living in a home $300,000 and above. While there's some really great qualities to that and really good things can happen when you begin to work with demographics and targeting an audience, you're missing the point there of the niche. The flip side to the niche, as far as like a group of people, is to think about people who are interested in a specific thing. That's also a niche. So your niche could be being a painter of flowers, being a painter of animals, being a painter of Western landscapes. Get it as narrow as you can. Doesn't mean you can't ever venture out of that niche, but the deeper you go into that niche, the richer you'll find it to be. And somebody yesterday mentioned competition as being something that held them back. Well, here's the answer to the competition. If you've got a narrow enough niche that you're going deep enough into, there's very little competition there. There's a big enough global market that if you go very deep into a specific niche, the competition is going to be very limited, and there's more than enough. There's more than enough audience for all of you within that niche. So the competition, again, like I said yesterday, is just with yourself on that standpoint. So don't make the mistake of attempting to please and appeal to everyone. That does not work. Pick a very narrow niche and go deep. Second big mistake I see people making, and this is really more specifically towards social media, is that they post too much, too often, and it's not on brand. So y'all may have heard the term brand before. And thinking of brands is, most people, when you hear the word brand, they think logo or typeface. That's not what a brand is. A brand is your reputation. It's the perception that people have of you. So you want to make sure that whatever you post is right in line, in alignment, one of my favorite words, in alignment with your brand, with who you are and what you stand for. So you want to make sure you're not posting too much, too often, and that it's always on brand. Now, that doesn't mean you can't post things about what you did at the beach today or how cute your dog looks when you dress them up in a tutu for Halloween. It just means that you need to be very clear about what you're posting and how you're using it. You need to think about tailoring that to the persona you're trying to create online. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. So posting too often and too much is not a good idea. A lot of people think that the more they post online, the better off that they're going to be. They're afraid that with all the changes in the algorithm, if they don't post 2 or 3 times a day, they're not going to get any followers and nobody's going to hear about them and nobody is going to see their art. You can't fool the algorithm. So don't try to game it. That almost never works. Instead, post consistently. Show up consistently and share content that is in alignment with who you are trying to be and stand for. So posting less often can actually bear more fruit. Sounds counterintuitive, I know, but you want to post with intent. And that's the third mistake that I see people making, is they post without intent. They're not thinking about where they want people to go next from that post. They don't have a clear end in mind. They just know they got to post today. So, oh dear God, what am I going to post? I got to throw a post up there. So that doesn't do you any good. That's just noise on the airwaves, and it's a total waste of your time. Instead, you want to post with clarity and intent, material that's going to help lead your followers off of social media and onto your website to get onto your email list. So remember yesterday I talked about that journey. We call it the customer journey. And you want to take people from the wide world of the internet over here and have them become your fan and your follower, and then move them over to your website where you have an email subscription form and you have them sign up to get on your email list. And it gets them closer and closer and closer to you, because the golden nugget, the thing that helps you grow that engaged audience, is bringing your followers and fans closer to you and building an individual relationship with them. It's not about having more, it's about the quality of what you have. So let me say that again. It's not about having more, it's about the quality of what you have. A small, engaged list is far more productive than a mega list of thousands who don't ever open the email. So what do I mean by an engaged audience? An engaged audience is one that has a conversation with you. So many of y'all I've had conversations with, either here on the internet, on social media, or back and forth in response to an email I've sent out, sometimes even face-to-face, one-on-one. It means that the interactions that I have with you are a whole lot more meaningful to me, because I know the personalities and the people, the individual lives of the people that I serve. My community, my audience is not this sort of blank, nondescript, amorphous people out there. They're people I've talked with that are individuals, and I know their hopes, their dreams, their likes, their dislikes, and what gets in their way in getting towards those hopes and dreams. That's what I want you to develop with your own audience. It's truly necessary in this day and age to build that kind of relationship. So one of the things that really bothers me the most, and it's not just in the arts, I saw this not too long ago with a very well-known online marketer who was trying to figure out how to distance herself from her audience. And all I could think of was, you are going backwards, not forwards. She did not want to engage with the people who were sending her emails or making comments on social media. She wanted to send them back to the group to ask their questions of the entire group. And she's missing the whole point of social media. She's actually missing the whole point of an engaged audience, which is that you're going to engage with them, that you're going to be social. And for all of you out there who are introverts, and a lot of us in the arts are, I am too. I do a whole lot better when I have small compressed times when I'm extroverted. I can do it for a while, and then I have to go sit by myself and watch the tide change. For all of you who are introverted, know that it's a whole lot easier to begin to develop those relationships online, especially the more often you do it, than it is to walk into a room of 200 people live and begin to have those conversations. You can do that eventually if you kind of get your toe wet here online first. But your platform, your online platform, gives you the opportunity to build that engaged audience of raving fans who love you and what you do, and you can love back on them, because that's the kind of relationship and connection that leads to a thriving artist and a thriving practice and a thriving impact on the world. Doesn't happen by pulling back and not engaging at all. That's just death to whatever it is that you're trying to do. Please don't be that person who thinks that all you have to do is put it out there and somehow magically you're going to have a thriving business, because that's not how it works. You have to engage. You have to develop that relationship. So one of the things that I talked about yesterday was the difference between a newsletter and an email. And I know that sounds really odd for me to even say that, but newsletters, remember, are dead. That is not the best marketing form for you to use in sending to your list of subscribers. What artists tend to do with newsletters, in case you missed yesterday, but I'm going to reiterate it because I feel so strongly about this. What artists have traditionally in the last 10 years done with newsletters is they send them out once a month. They agonize over them for 3 to 4 days before sending. They have lots and lots of photographs in there, beautifully laid out, three-columned kind of magazine approaches to an email going out. The articles, because they're writing articles that they put in there, tend to be all about them and not about their reader. And that's going to really ruin your relationship with your reader. So from a practical standpoint, Gmail, which is the biggest email provider out there, will filter those old newsletters out, and they will 9 times out of 10 not land in the inbox of your subscribers, because Gmail has decided that old-fashioned newsletters are spam. And I kind of agree with them on that. So if you've got more than 1 to 2 images in your email, if you've got more than 1 to 2 links in your email, now the change your subscription format, that doesn't count as the link. And you can repeat the same link multiple times. But if you've got more than 1 to 2 links in there, all of those things are going to flag Gmail. So using that old-fashioned newsletter format is hurting your deliverability, it's hurting your open rates, and you're not reaching your readers. You're not serving your readers if you're using that. It's not the best format. Instead, in order to build that one-to-one connection and relationship, then what you need to do is to write an email like it's a letter, and it needs to be written as if you're talking to just one person. How many of y'all have ever gotten a newsletter that says, "Hey there, all of y'all. I know all of you out there," kind of thing? That's talking to the big scattergun. That's not personal. Instead, talk to one person. Literally, the language you use needs to be as if you're speaking to your best friend sitting right in front of you. Forget all the lessons that your English teacher in high school and college taught you. I want you to put contractions in there, and I want you to use slang and idiomatic English, and your sentences don't have to be complete. You can use one of my favorite, ellipses, and use very short emails. Your emails need to be really short and quick. We get too many emails in our inbox to read an email that goes on like this. People don't read to the end. So keep your emails short, sweet, to the point, and using informal language, and always end them with a call to action. Tell people what you want them to do. It might be to leave a comment. It might be to ask a question. It might be to go read a blog post, but leave them with something to do. It's super important. Don't make it an aimless question. Don't ask them what shade of red is your favorite. What color is your favorite? Make it connected to the content of what you've written about. And remember, you don't have to write an essay. In fact, it's better not to. Short, sweet, and to the point. Keep it short. Yeah, Leslie says, I need to work on the email side of it. Have my website, just need to follow up. Yeah, this is the chance for you to really begin building a solid relationship with your potential audience and clients. So the next thing I want to think about is, how do you attract them? How do you get them? Well, the way that you grow your audience without relying on that paid traffic is to post regularly on social media. Remember, I said don't post too often, but post regularly. You need to post on a regular basis. You know, one of my favorite artists wrote that Chuck Close I'm paraphrasing, said that amateurs wait for inspiration and professionals just show up and do the work. This applies to building your audience as well. Don't wait around for inspiration to make a post. Show up on a consistent basis. When you post consistently, and you only have to post once a day to really begin making an impact. When you post consistently over time, the algorithm begins to play in your favor. The algorithm can be your friend. So consistency makes the algorithm your friend. Post consistently on that social hub of your choice. Show up there, but don't be a drag and drop and run. And by that, I mean, actually call them plop and drop. Don't just plop your posts down and then run off and expect magical things to happen. What you post on social media is just the first step. Then you have to go back in the comments and you have to respond when people make comments. If you don't respond, people will stop commenting. So you have to actually engage yourself if you want them to engage. So the formula for that really is pretty simple. Show up, post consistently, and engage. Rinse, repeat. Show up, post consistently, and engage. Tell them what you want them to do. Have a clear goal in mind of what you're trying to accomplish. And at the very beginning, what you're trying to do is build that email list. Don't just leave people over on social media. You need to move them off of social media onto your website where they can sign up to your list. Make it clear to them how they're going to get there. How do you do that? You put the link to your subscription page in your bio in social media. Now, Instagram doesn't let you drop a link into the caption. In order to have a link that's active, it's got to be in your bio. So on Instagram, you send people to your bio, to the link there, to go back to your website and sign up. It could be that you're sending them to your website to an article or a blog post that has the subscription form at the bottom, but you got to move them off of Instagram to your website. On Facebook, Facebook lets you put that link in. So does Pinterest, so does LinkedIn, and so does Twitter. Instagram's the only one that's kind of an awkward fit for that. But Instagram is really probably one of the best social media platforms for people in the visual arts. But just pick the one that you're the most comfortable with already. So one of the things that I heard yesterday was that people find social media overwhelming and they don't know how to use it. And they don't know how to take people from there to their website. Well, social media does not have to be overwhelming. Schedule it and start with the place that you already have an audience. So all of you out there, and yes, I'm looking at you in the back row, you all have an audience already. You think you don't have an audience, but you do. You have friends, family, colleagues, and followers already on social media, whichever platform it is on social media that you're on. And it's relatively easy to take the people who are already there to your email list, to your website, or to your professional social media platform. So it's not hard to take that initial audience you've already got and bring them over to your business page and then to your website. So this is how you grow your first 100 subscribers. Step one is that you're going to invite all your family and friends to join your email list. And you do that with an individual email. So to get your first 100, step one, and you don't have to call them on the phone, you don't have to see them in person, you can send them an email. You can't sign them up without their permission, but you can invite them to join your email list. So you send them a personal email and invite them to join your email list and include the link to your subscription page. That should get you about 25 or 30 because all of us have at least 25 or 30 family, never mind friends. I guess maybe in the South, we know all our 15th cousins. So we've got tons of family. But invite your family and friends. They're your supporters and they're your cheerleaders. And how many of you have already sold a painting to a family member or a friend? They're also clients sometimes. So start with them. In that email, invite them to forward your email to anyone that they think might be interested in following your painting journey. Step number two, get on your Facebook business page. Yes, you have to start a Facebook business page. Yes, you have to start an Instagram business account or a Pinterest business account, one or the other, but it's got to be a business account. You get extra bells and whistles when it's a business account. And most of the platforms are not super happy about you conducting business on a personal account. And you have to conform to their terms of service. So get thee to thy business page. So on your business page, certainly on Facebook, there's a mechanism to invite your friends from your personal profile over to your business page and get them to like your business page. It's a way to build the business page. And then there's the subscription form link on your business page as well. So you move them from personal to the business pages and from there to your website. You can do almost the same thing on Instagram. So the best plan is to move people from your personal, people who are already following you, to your business profiles and then to your website. So take the audience you've already got and move them from your personal following to your business following and then to your website. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions about that so far? If you do, pop that into the chat roll. Yeah. Oh, I see a question I got to talk about right now. So, Kata, your subscription page is on your website. So I'm going to share a page here. I didn't do this yesterday. I probably should have. I'm going to share a page right here so you can see what I'm talking about. where the form is, so that you'll know what I'm talking about. And different websites put it up in a different way, but so let me share this now. So this is on my website. And this is, I don't have a page that is just for subscriptions. I have my subscription box, the form here at the top of the section on my portfolio. And if somebody clicks that button, then the subscription form pops up for them to fill out. So I have a page that I send them to, and I have it in other places across my website as well. I have the same thing for people who want to get art tips. So if they go to that page and click the button, the subscription form pops up. So that's what I mean by the subscription page, a place for them to sign up to get your emails. So that's that first question. But there's another one back here that I want to make sure I get. I saw it just a second ago. Okay. Somebody was asking about or talking about using a third-party app to schedule posts. I'm going to tell you right now, don't do that. And I know that's going to hurt and be painful for a lot of people, but here's why. When you use a third-party app to schedule a post on social media, your reach is cut dramatically back. You're not going to get shown to as many people because the algorithm does not like third-party apps. So things like Buffer, Hootsuite, SmarterQueue, Meet Edgar, all of those post scheduling apps for Facebook, Facebook hates them. And if you're using one of those, I want you to run a test for me. I want you to try posting the exact same post 2 mornings in a row, or say an hour apart. Post one using your third-party app and post the second one natively, which means you go in there and upload it yourself. You're going to get more reach. Do it at the same time of the day so you can compare apples to apples. You'll get more reach without that app. And the reason it's painful is a lot of us got really reliant on those posting schedulers. I used to use one too. I still use one for the platforms that I'm not on that much. So the secondary platforms, I use a scheduler, but they don't like that. And somebody asked what the algorithm was. The algorithm is a mathematical formula that it's artificial intelligence that Facebook has developed for its platform, that they developed for Instagram. Pinterest has an algorithm. Twitter has an algorithm. All social media platforms use that artificial intelligence to serve up content to the people who are using the platform that they're going to be interested in. It's not malevolent. It's not out to get you. And it's not trying to end the world as we know it. The algorithm is there to make the user experience good for the people who are on the platform. So they're not shown stuff they're not interested in. Those platforms don't want you to leave the platform. They want you to stay on there all day. So the algorithm is geared to do that. You don't want to do behaviors that are going to tick off the algorithm. And using a scheduler will tick it off. One type of scheduler you can use is one of them that is approved for Instagram, something like SmarterQueue that works. Hootsuite, it has been accepted by Instagram. There's some ones out there that aren't, and you'll get dinged for using those. But things like SmarterQueue and Hootsuite, Plannerly lets you do that, I think some too. You can schedule your post for Instagram, and that tool doesn't make the actual post. You still have to press the button to post, and that way you're not dinged. But I hate to say you need to start posting natively and stop using a scheduler. I should probably have put that into one of the big mistakes people make, because you're critically wounding your reach. You're not getting in front of your audience. You're getting a small percentage of your audience when you do that. So be really, really, really careful with that. So Kata says, are you suggesting daily posts on Facebook, Instagram, and such, not daily emails, right? Exactly. There are times when daily emails work, but people need to know up front that that's what they're signing up for. And while those worked in the beginning of the internet, I don't think they work as well anymore because people get too many emails. So unless people have signed up knowing that's what they're going to get, I would not do that. But you can post daily on social media, because I wouldn't post more than once in most cases. But you can post daily on social media because most of the people are not seeing it. That's where kind of the algorithm is in your favor. So I know people worry about posting on both Instagram and on Facebook and posting basically the same post. Don't do it at the same time, but it's safe to post the same post, the same content on both platforms. Even if you have a follower who's on both, the odds of them seeing it on both are slim and none. Think about how fast the timeline moves. When it moves that quickly, not everybody who follows you is going to see it. So I'll give you an example here so that you can see what I mean. I'll pull up my Facebook page and you can see some of the stats on how many people are actually seeing a post. And I think that'll make it make more sense. So let me share my screen again here. So I have close to 25,000 followers on my Facebook page. And I think Nancy is still on. Nancy Medina is on too. Nancy has way more than I do. And if you want to watch somebody who handles Facebook super, super well, follow what Nancy does on Facebook. She's a pro at that. So on Facebook, I have almost 25,000 followers, but they don't all see every post that I make because they're either not on when I make the post, or they have not looked at a post of mine in a while, or various and sundry reasons. So there are all kinds of reasons why people are not going to see it. So of that 25,000, this post right here about work-life balance as an artist reached 7,500 people, not 25,000. So that one reached a third of my audience, roughly, not even half. This one reached 2,500, so 10% of my audience. That's usually the norm with an organic post, is that it's going to reach about 5 to 10% of your audience. And you can rant and rave about it and get ticked off at social media. And I see people doing that, and that is a waste of time because we don't have to pay for organic reach. So somebody else had asked about whether it costs money to get a Facebook business page. It does not. Neither does it cost money to get an Instagram business page or a Pinterest business page. But in the end, if you want to have reach beyond your normal 10%, then you need to start advertising. But you can build your audience through consistent posting almost as effectively as advertising. And the beauty of posting consistently is that when you do advertise, your advertising is going to be cheaper. So posting and having an engaged audience on social media pays off literally in the end. So you want to engage with your audience in order for Facebook to show it to more people, and Instagram and Pinterest as well. Here's how that works. So I, Mary Gilkerson, make a post that I'm going to say it's a fantastic post that has a gorgeous image and lots of people like it. They hit like, they hit love, and they make a comment. They might even share it if they're on Facebook with a friend. Facebook counts that as engagement and goes, this post is one that people like and are engaging with. We should show it to more people. And it does. That's how the algorithm works. So if you get engagement, this is the way you grow it without spending money. If you get engagement within the first few minutes of your making a post, within that first hour roughly, and you respond back, all of those platforms are going to show your post to more people, and you'll build a wider audience. Does that make sense? So you get Circes, you get brownie points for showing up and being a nice human being. So that is the way to grow your audience organically without having to spend money, is showing up consistently and engaging. Trying to catch some of these other questions on social media before I go on to the next part. Melanie says, I have an audience on Instagram. Can I change my personal page to a business page? You sure can. It's really easy to do. So if you just Google how to change a personal page to a business page, Instagram has a really great tutorial on that. I actually think I have one on my website too. So Melanie, Carson, if you're on, if you can pop the link to the Instagram blog post into Zoom, that would be great. Then they can go and find that. But yeah, you can absolutely very easily in about 5 minutes switch your personal Instagram profile to a business one. And it just takes all the people who are currently following you and now they're following you as a business. So all of us as artists are what we call personal brands. So I would avoid establishing a social media account with a name that's cutesy. Avoid cutesy. It does not look professional. Don't call it something that is like, unless you're going way out over the edge, and sometimes that really does work, but My Pink Fairy Dust is probably not going to be a good name for your website, social media accounts. Keep it professional. Use your name, because people are coming because of the relationship they're building with you. And in order for them to find you, they got to find your name. If you have to add anything to it, add something like art or studio. Try to keep it super, super simple. You can put your middle name or initial in there if you need to in order to get it. Candace asks, can you use the same name for both personal and business on Instagram? Yes, in fact, you should. That's a great question. So my handle on my name on Facebook for my business page is Mary Gilkerson Art. On Instagram, it's Mary Gilkerson Art. So it has the same name in there, but you could also just keep it Mary Gilkerson, Mary Gilkerson, Mary Gilkerson, or whatever the name is that you're using. The main thing to remember is that you want to be able to distinguish between whether you're posting as your personal profile or your business one. So I would put something in there to visually give yourself a cue that you're now on your business profile, and you want to be careful what you're saying so that it's for your broad global audience. I use 2 different images. I have a color image on my business page and a black and white one on my personal profile, so that I can look at the picture and really fast tell which one I'm on. So yeah, absolutely you can do that. Lynn says, do the email platforms like MailChimp store the emails in a database and where you can do a mail merge? Yes, that is exactly what they do. So you don't have to go through and do the complications of a mail merge like you do in Word. It does it automatically for you. So there are all kinds of tools in there to use for that. So I want to hop back. I'm going to come back to any other questions people have about the specifics here, but I want to make sure that we get through a couple of other important points here. So find where I left my notes. There we go. So one of the things that is probably more important, actually it's way more important then what social media platform you're on, what email service provider you're using. All of those are kind of in the weeds questions. What is way more important goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning about the niche and about going deep and narrow. And what I mean by that is that who you are being while you're online is more important than which platform you're on. Let me say it again. Who you're being online is more important than the platform you're on, because people are connecting with a person, and you need to be really clear about who that person is and how you're portraying that person online. Remember, I said a brand is the public perception of who you are as an artist or who the company is that they're looking at. It's all about public perception. It's not about font. It's not about colors. It's not about typeface. Brand is reputation and public perception. All of those other things should reinforce that public perception. You can't portray a public perception until you know who you are. You got to do that inner work. So if you registered for the workshop, you should have gotten a link yesterday along with the link to the replay, or maybe this morning to the replay. It has the button on there to download the ebook. The ebook is about the inner game of the painter, the inner game of painting. And it's all about the creative mindset and becoming super clear on who you are and who you're going to be as an artist in order to thrive. Until you get clarity on that, you're not going to be able to grow an audience. You're not going to be able to connect with that audience if you do have a few, and you're not going to be able to sell your art. You have to develop the clarity and the confidence in what you're doing in order for other people to connect with you emotionally and to feel confident about what you're offering. So confidence is contagious, and you got to develop it first. So if you haven't downloaded that ebook yet, make sure you download it. Go back and listen to the videos I've been doing over the last month on creativity hacks. It's not just about painting more in the studio. It's about who do you have to become as an artist in order to thrive as an artist. You're not going to thrive on the outside until you thrive on the inside. And you've got to be able to exchange that, to be clear on that, and talk about that to your audience. That's part of your niche. It's part of the people that you're trying to appeal to. You want to repel the others and attract the ones who are in your niche. You want to be clear on your values and your vision. What's important to you? And you need to talk about it. You need to have clarity about your voice, about what you're going to use it to say in creating content online. How do you want people to perceive you? Get super, super clear on that. And then it becomes easy to attract your ideal customers, because that makes you a magnetic and compelling person. Remember, I talked about compelling paintings. You really have to have compelling paintings, but you also have to be compelling as a person. Decide what kind of person you're going to be. Are you going to be the cheerleader for people who are in your niche? Are you going to be the tough coach? Are you going to be the nurturer? Decide who it is that you are and the voice that you're going to use before you start creating that content. Do the inner work first, and it becomes a whole lot easier to grow and engage that audience. So that's what is the first step in growing that audience without relying on paid traffic. Even before you start posting once a week, you got to decide who you are. You have to decide what you stand for and how you're going to make an impact on the world. And then create content that backs that up that you can share with a potential audience, particularly people who are in that same niche of people who love the same thing. Does that make sense? Put a high five or a yes into the chat roll or the comments if that makes sense to you. That you've got to decide what it is that's important to you. What is the thing that you want to get across to gain that confidence in yourself in order to attract your ideal audience, to be a compelling person on the internet? And you're not going to be able to do it until you get that confidence in yourself. Nobody's going to have confidence in what you offer until you have confidence in yourself. So do that inner work. Download that ebook, read it, go listen to those videos, but do that inner work. It's step one of becoming that thriving artist. So yay, I'm seeing some yeses in there. Awesome. High fives. Cool. Excellent. Yeah, that is really the heart of it. Once you decide what you stand for, writing content becomes so much easier. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical example here because most of us work better from examples, not just theories in the air. So pretend I am Susie Smith and I'm a painter and I am passionate about dog rescue. See, I'm making this up as I go along. I actually do have somebody in mind who's done something like this. I'm passionate about dog rescue. And so I have decided that my niche are people who love dogs. And so in making my paintings of dogs, I'm able to share my passion, my curiosity about the bond between humans and animals. And because it's something that I'm curious about, that I naturally study, that I feel strongly about, I have no trouble talking about that, not just about my paintings, but about my passion for dogs. And then you can do what somebody actually did do this. She partnered with a rescue organization so that the paintings that she made, a percentage of the paintings that she made and sold went to that rescue organization. And in return, they featured her on their website. So it's that equal partnership thing that I talked about yesterday. So knowing what you're passionate about, what you care about the most, and letting that over into what you're painting about and what you're sharing as content is charismatic and compelling, and it pulls people in like a magnet. What you don't want to do, and it's what I see so many people do on the internet, is that they post from a place of lack. They post from a place of need, and they post and people can tell that they're needy. And that post comes across like, could you please buy my painting? I really need $150 right now. And I really want you to buy my painting. If you buy my painting, I'll have $150. Now, people don't, actually, sometimes they do say that literally. People don't tend to do that literally, but that's the subtext that comes across. So for everybody out there who's ever played the dating game, how compelling is it to you when you are in that first walk around with somebody that you're thinking about going out with, when they call you every 10 minutes? Not a whole lot. How compelling is it when they are needy and it feels like they're an energy vampire and they're latching onto you? That pushes people away. Don't be that person. You have to have confidence. That's an extreme example. But if you don't have confidence, you are trying to chase after people, whether it's in sales or building an audience. If you have confidence, you are drawing them in magnetically through the power of your vision and your voice. And you don't have to be Ernest Hemingway to write well enough to pull people in. All you have to be is you. Each one of us is very, very, very different. We're going to speak to very, very different people, even if we're working with the same subject matter. That's how you stand out in even a narrow niche. You're going to have a different voice and vision. So you're going to attract a different group of people than artists A over here and B over here, because we're all very different. So when you get super, super, super clear on your why, on what's important to you, on your values, on your vision, on the change and the impact you want to make in the world, it draws people in who are attracted to the same thing. So that's why those things are so important. And it makes it super easy then to magnetize yourself and attract those ideal audience members. So Rose says, what do you mean by voice? That is a fantastic question. So voice means how you want people to perceive you. It's kind of another way of saying brand. It's the way that you're going to shape your language. It's the way you already talk. So to hear your own voice, literally open a Google Doc, because Google Docs will let you record what you're saying into it when you have a microphone on. And just start talking about something you care about a lot. Then read back the transcript that Google types for you. That's your voice, literally, talking about something that you love. Look at the kind of language that you're using in there. Look at the words that you choose to use. That's your voice. So your voice in words is the way you phrase your language. It's how you show up in the world. So if you are that person who's passionate about dogs and you find dogs immensely intriguing and the relationship between humans and dogs, your voice is going to be different than somebody who is more interested in the relationship between humans and the land. So that's what I mean by voice, is your own individual fingerprint as you move through the world. So look at any letters that you've written to friends. Start keeping a journal. That's one of the best ways to develop your voice, is to just keep a journal and write about the things that you find interesting, that you find intriguing, that you care about. And your voice is already there. You just need to let it out. So yeah, and as Lisa says, Day One is a great journal app. There are lots of journal apps out there. The simplest one might be that Google Doc, because you can use, that's free, and you can use the headphones and Google's voice to text and just talk right in there. And it's easier for a lot of us to talk than type. But some of us are pen to paper people. I'm one of those. I journal with a pen and a paper, and it has to be a certain kind of pen and it has to be a certain kind of paper. That's my weirdness. But so everybody has their own preference on that. There's no one size fits all, but journaling is a fantastic way to begin to develop your voice. And you'll find that you have blog content and social media content cropping up in there without your having to work on it. Some things that you probably don't want to include in your social media post are ones that get into too much into the nitty-gritty of personal relationships. There's a saying in, I'm sure it's true in the rest of the world too, but in the South, we don't talk in public about religion or politics. And that's so that you can have civil conversations. And it's probably a good idea on social media as well, just to keep that out as much as you can, unless your artwork is about those particular issues. So keep it focused and keep it authentic. Don't make stuff up. The flip side to this is this sort of perception of a curated life, a perfect life that gets presented on social media without all of the bad stuff. So you see what we present to the world. You don't see the dirty dishes in the sink. You don't see the beach dirt on all over the back of the car. You don't see the clothes in the washing machine and that kind of stuff, because nobody wants to post that on the internet. So keep in mind when you're trying to develop what you want to put out there as content, that it doesn't have to be the perfect vision of the world. It just has to be your vision. So hopefully that makes sense. Susie says, if you have two things you're interested in, like dogs and still lives, would you have two Instagram accounts? No, definitely not. Just one. Do not spread yourself thin on having multiple Instagram accounts. Now, you don't have to make paintings that are that, your niche doesn't have to be just that one thing. You can do still lives and dogs. You can have both of those on your website, but you're going to gain ground faster if you pick one and focus on that on social media. So you can still paint both, but I probably would pick one or the other as the main focus for your social media accounts in trying to develop a following that's going to be interested in those. So I wouldn't try to mix things up too much. It's kind of like trying to sell ice cream and doormats as your main things, and you got two distinct audiences there. And so that means you're going to have to spend twice as much time cultivating them both. So you can do it in the end, but when you're getting started, focus on one because it's a whole lot easier. And Susan said, I just set up a business page. Awesome, saw Susan. Absolutely, you can type it in there. No problem. Put it on in there. Yes, as Catherine says, it has more repercussions than just on your post. Yeah. Oh, I love this, Melanie. Melanie says, for instance, I recorded the owls in my backyard last week, and that got lots of good feedback on my Instagram feed. Yeah. Things that feed your creativity can be things that you share with the world. So one of the forms that is really good to use on social media is stories, and both Instagram and Facebook have stories for your business profiles. And probably 2 months ago, my highest, biggest engagement on all my stories came from a post that I did, a little video that I did when I was out on my morning walk early one morning. So it was like July in midsummer Savannah heat, intense humidity. It was hot because I'd not gotten out as early as I intended. And the cicadas were whining at the top of their little wingtips. The shriek was going up and down. And cicadas, if you're not familiar with them, it's a standard sound in the South. It's part of summer. I don't even pay attention to them most of the time. But they were whining and they go up and then down. It's like a wave, a rhythmic wave. Well, I recorded just a little bit of the park that I walked through and then talked about the sound of the cicadas. And that thing just caught fire. So it's something that I associate with place, and it's a sound that I love, and people were intrigued by it. So it got lots of engagement. And I'm sure that the recording of the owls, it worked the same way. It's part of what feeds your imagination and part of what feeds you as an artist. And when you share that authentically, you build engagement, you build rapport, and you build relationships. So absolutely, I think that's awesome. And Susan, I'm not sure what you meant, which thing you were talking about when you say yes, once you decide. I think you're talking about which thing you're going to focus on. Once you decide what you're interested and curious about. And I want to caution everybody about waiting until they have the perfect decision. Done is better than perfect. So you're going to be 10 times, 100 times better off picking one thing to focus on and focusing on that for a while. Get that up and spinning before you go to the next thing. So it doesn't mean you're giving up on that other interest, but it means that you're going to focus on one thing so you can go that deep and narrow niche that I talked about. You can go niching or niching, depending on how you say it. And you can't do that if you've got multiple things that you're trying to balance. It doesn't mean you're letting go of the other thing totally. So one of my professors told me, you're leaving that idea over here on the side, and you can come back and pick it up at any point. I tell my students that's the parking lot, and I want them to put that thing in the parking lot, and they can come back and pick it up, but they can't do all the things at one time, because as human beings, we don't multitask well. In fact, we don't multitask. They've proven that. We just think we do. When we try to do multiple things at one time, we fall down and we don't do anything well. So narrowly focus in on that one thing for a while so that you can really get it up and running. Janice says, is there a problem with posting various mediums? Is one usually better? No, I think the medium that is your heart medium is the medium that you need to be working in. And you might have two heart mediums, things that really intrigue you. Follow your curiosity. That's the medium you need to be working in. There is no hierarchy that says oils are more, have a higher value than acrylics and have a higher value than watercolor. That's a myth. Totally is a myth. Now, where there's some differences, I charge the same thing for my acrylics as I do for my oils, exactly the same thing. The only difference in watercolors and oils is that those are on paper, they're more fragile. I charge differently for things on paper than I do for things on canvas or panels. And I'm not sure how long I'm going to do that. They actually probably should be the same or close to the same. So you have to be careful about that. Nobody else is going to perceive that hierarchy unless you do yourself. So paint in the medium that works for you. Melanie says, why are the trees screaming? Yeah, I think some people did think the trees were screaming when I recorded the cicadas. It does sound like that. It's just really loud. And I'm so used to it, I don't pay any attention to it. It just is the sound of summer. Katha says, if you're passionate about painting, if you know you're passionate about painting landscapes, how do you narrow that? What kind of landscapes appeal to you? Do you prefer rural landscapes? Do you prefer urban landscapes? Do you prefer ocean landscapes? There's probably an area that you're focused on, and that becomes your niche. So, for example, there's an area outside of Columbia in South Carolina, in the central part of the state, that I painted for a long time, almost 10 years, out in Laura Richland, Minervaville. And it was not an area that I found appealing at first to paint, but I painted it and painted it and painted it, and I grew to love it a whole lot. And then found an audience of people who were from similar landscapes, similar geographies, who were drawn to that because of how much it reminded them of the places they grew up. One of my primary collectors' family owned a farm there for generations, and he's bought my paintings and my prints over and over and over again. And he's emailed his cousins to go look at my work, and they've bought paintings. So that becomes a narrow niche. So the people who are connected to that place, it doesn't mean they have to live there, but you're gonna, and it doesn't mean that people who live somewhere totally different are not ever gonna buy your work, but you're gonna be able to totally appeal to people who connect with that kind of landscape. So that's what I mean by that. Patricia says, I nearly recorded some crows talking this morning while I was painting. Do it tomorrow. Definitely get that in there. It makes a kind of direct connection that people might not have otherwise. So let me double check over here in the Facebook group about comments and questions. Let's see. Andrea, if you're having trouble with the feed in the Facebook group, it could easily be your Wi-Fi. So get closer to your Wi-Fi router and it should be a little bit better. But when you're streaming a live broadcast on Facebook, it's just like streaming any other video. If you don't have a good Wi-Fi connection, it's going to break up and break out periodically. So I would get as close to your router as you can, and you may need to actually log off and log back in order to get it to work there. Now, Leslie has a great question. She says, are videos a good idea? Yes. As you're developing content for your audience, you also want to think about the social media platforms as being an audience too, and they prefer video. So social media platforms give more weight to video over, say, regular posts or just a link post. Now, as artists, we've got tons of great paintings that we can post, and those tend to get great engagement as well. So don't hesitate to post paintings. But yeah, people find video engaging, and it's not that hard to do. We've all got a cell phone or an iPad or something like that we can record with. And people actually respond better to informal video than they do to the fancy video done by the professional photographer in the studio kind of thing. So yeah, go for it. Do videos, but don't rely just on video, because there are plenty of people out there who can't stand to watch a whole video and they want to see some text. So make sure you're appealing to all of the different ways that people consume content, and you'll be 100% better off. So one of the things that I want to wrap up with is thinking about what you're going to do with this audience once you have them. I mean, the first thing is to build the audience and to build that engaging relationship. So create that relationship with the audience. But then you have to think about how you're going to take them from your email list and from your social media platforms, from your website, from being just followers and fans to being collectors, clients, and customers. So that's that last stage of the customer journey. It's the final part of that experience. And it is the thing that most people have the hardest time with when they're starting to try to build a thriving practice. So if you're just not sure anybody is going to pay for your art, keep in mind, if you go narrow and deep on your niche and you build an audience of raving fans and followers around that niche who are responding to the content that you put out there, that they will connect with your work and your offer. And how you frame that offer is how you take them from being that follower or fan to being the collector, client, or customer. So we're going to be focusing the whole session on Monday. Our next final session is on Monday, the 7th at 4, just like today and yesterday. We're going to be focusing on the offer and on selling. How do you sell? How do you create an offer and sell? How do you make an impact if you're not sure anybody wants your work, if you're not sure anybody's going to pay for it? So we're going to talk about how to create that offer and create that impact for that entire session. So you're not going to be all the way to that thriving artist status until you have the platform and you use the platform to build that engaged audience. And then you use that platform to make an offer that's going to have an impact. So the offer with the impact is the final part of that process. So I want to make sure everybody tunes in then to get that. And just like yesterday, if you're registered for the workshop, I'm going to be sending you a PDF this evening along with the replay that's going to help you begin to think about how you're going to build that engaged audience, and then begin thinking that thought process about the offer. So an offer is not the painting. An offer is not the print. The offer is the package, the thing, the present that you're going to make that's going to make the impact. Think about it as a present, because I think that works a lot better in people's minds. Because if you think of it as a present, it's something that you're giving to people that's going to have an impact on them. It's going to make a difference to them. And it's not necessarily something that is an exchange about money. You can make an impact in a whole variety of different ways. But you've got to make that present. You've got to share that gift first. So Jen says, how do I listen to this again? You listen to this again when I send out that replay link, Jen, and you can also find it over in the Artwork Living Facebook group if you want to dive into it again before we get the replay link sent out. So I just want to drop that teaser there so that y'all understand that we're going to give you the final part of that formula, that framework, the blueprint to getting from the roadmap to get from starving and overwhelmed to thriving and successful on Monday. So I want to make sure everybody remembers to come back on Monday. We're going to talk about that final step, the offer. So Bob says over on Facebook, when I post something on my Facebook business account, does everyone on my personal list see that post? That is a great question. No, they don't. Unless they follow you on your business page, they're not going to see that. You can share it to your personal profile and they'll see it, but your friends are not automatically added as followers on your business page. So that they're not going to see it unless you've invited them over there and they followed your page. They've got to like your page in order to see it. One other way people can see it is if a friend shares it. Sometimes Facebook will show posts that have a lot of engagement to people who are not already following your page if they are following similar pages. Instagram does the same thing. But no, your friends are not seeing it unless you get them over there onto your page. Laura says, is copyright a concern with posting paintings of finished work? Copyright issues hold a lot of people back from posting. And I'm here to tell you all, you got to let that go. There is plenty of stuff in the world to go around. There's a lot of abundance out there. And if you hold yourself back from sharing your gifts with the world because you're worried that somebody's going to steal your image, you'll never share your gift, and all the people who need to see it won't see it. So don't do that. I wouldn't bother with putting the embedded copyright on the image, because the watermark, because that's so easy to get rid of or cut off. It does not stop people from stealing your image. Yes, people are going to steal your image. I've had people steal my images. I found a woman across the world in Europe who had copied about 8 of my paintings that she'd seen on Instagram. And she had an exhibition in Belgium and she had an exhibition in Cairo of those paintings. But she posted them on Instagram, and I happened, and I don't stroll through Instagram that often when I'm not focused on the business side of it. I happened to just one Sunday morning be drinking coffee on the deck and looked at it, and there were my paintings. And I issued a takedown notice and asked her to remove them, and she removed them. And then I made her remove them from her website. So you can do reverse Google image searches and find when people are using your stuff. Are foreign countries going to take your images and make prints of them and sell them online? Probably. But that percent of the market is not enough to really hurt you. And if you spend all your time chasing them down, you're not going to make art and you're not going to engage with your audience. And that's a starving mindset. It's not a thriving mindset. So don't go down that road. Share your work. You owe it to the world. That's my main response to the copyright problem, is that you owe it to the world. You got that gift, you don't own it, you got to give it back. So part of your responsibility to share with the world is to share with the world and not just with people who pay you. See, I kind of think you almost have a responsibility to share on social media. And I'm kind of going out on a limb and saying that, but put copyright notices on your website, put copyright notices in the captions, and then release it to the universe, because you don't have that much control over what happens there. And if people do copy your stuff, then send them a polite email and ask them to take it down, and that you're not relinquishing your copyright. It's illegal for people to do that. It's illegal for people to copy your paintings in their own paintings in any way, shape, or form. And we have this discussion in the free group all the time. It drives me absolutely bat crazy. There are copyright laws out there. And just because you're doing it to learn does not give you the right to copy it. The only time you can copy people's paintings, literally, is if they've given you permission. So for example, in my painting courses, I give permission to people to copy the paintings that are in my demos. They have permission to do that. They have permission to copy the photos that are in the courses, but only the ones in the courses. They can't go copy anything they find on my website. And they know and understand and honor that. So you can't do that with other living artists. You can only do that with things that are out of copyright. And that's when people have been dead for more than 70 years and their estates have not renewed the copyright. So anything you find on Google is not okay to copy. So I'm kind of going off of my copyright rant there. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is something I want everybody to be really, really careful with. Here's the reason it's not just I don't like them, I detest watermarks. And I know a lot of people use them, but watermarks don't stop the copyists. The people they do stop are your potential collectors, because the watermark gets in the way of them seeing the artwork. It obscures the artwork. And that's doing you more harm than it is any potential copyist, because Photoshop can get rid of that watermark in about 30 seconds, literally 30 seconds. So just be careful with that. Yeah, you're welcome, Nancy. It's something I'm really, really passionate about. I know you've heard me rant about that before. So you can't just go to an artist's website whose work you love and copy their paintings, not even if you're not going to sell it. When you post that painting on social media, you're violating copyright, and they will contact you if they find out and ask you to take it down. So you also can't enter it in shows. You're right, Janice. Absolutely. Susan asks, is it all right to copy it when it's in a demonstration video? If they have given you permission to do it, if it's in the context of a course or a class and they have given you permission, but you can't assume that you have permission. Most of the demos that are out there that people have done are done with the idea that you're going to paint something like that, not the exact same thing. So check the copyright that comes with whatever demo video that you've purchased. So, excellent, Carson, thank you. Lisa says, I'm told that most, if not all, of my posts should be original content, not reposts. Do you think that's true? Yes. There was a time when you could repost more or post from other things. On Instagram, I wouldn't repost. I just flat out wouldn't do it at all. Instagram is not the platform for reposting. In fact, on Instagram, you're not supposed to repost. That's why they don't have the mechanical mechanism built into the app for you to share a post onto your personal feed. The only way you can share somebody else's Instagram post on your Instagram feed is if you've gotten permission and you tag that person. Facebook, on the other hand, is the share city. So different platforms are really different. On your Facebook page, yeah, most of it should be original content, and then share things you find, be a curator and share things you find on the internet that might be of interest to other people. So Pinterest and Facebook are curating platforms, which means you can pull other content in. Instagram, it needs to be all your original content. That's a great question. Lydia says, I need to know more about email service providers and the pros and cons. Was there a conversation on that subject earlier in the webinar? I can go give you a list of some of the email service providers, but we really aren't going to have time to go in depth about the pros and cons of each one because they're all really different. And we do go over that in the Painter's Path a good bit. But the pros and cons, it just depends on what your needs are. There are a number of them out there. The main ones are MailChimp, Aweber, ConvertKit, Drip, ActiveCampaign, Entreport, and Infusionsoft. I usually recommend, and FASO has its own email service provider that comes with your monthly membership in FASO. The one that I recommend for people starting out is MailChimp, because for the first 2,000 subscribers, it's free. So I wouldn't even bother diving too much right now into the pros and cons. I would go for the free version, knowing that you can upgrade to something else later. I started on MailChimp and then moved to ActiveCampaign once I hit probably 3,000 subscribers and I needed more bells and whistles. No, it was before I hit 2,000 because I was going to have to pay, something like that. But start with MailChimp is the way to go there. Scrolling through. Cindy says, can you paint from a photo that's posted on Pinterest? Nope, not unless you get permission from the person who took the photograph. So photographs on the internet, whether it's Google, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, doesn't matter where it's from or somebody's website, are not free game unless you've got written permission. And you need written permission because if somebody changes their mind later, the oral agreement doesn't count. I've seen bad things happen with that. Carol, best way to photograph your painting to post it is with your cell phone, most of the time in good diffused light. Oh, you're most welcome, Ree James. That's not off subject. That is spot on. Ree says, thank you for pointing out that I need to stay with my strongest subject and stop jumping around all over the place. Amen, sister. That is the main point you've gotten today. That is the main way you're going to build your engaged audience, is when you focus in like a laser beam on that niche. So awesome that that's what you're taking away there. Kata says, do you recommend a website hosting using WordPress or GoDaddy and such? I use WordPress, but then I used to design websites. So I love WordPress. FASO is the one that I recommend to my students because FASO is basically WordPress, but it's managed. It's got a firewall. It's not expensive. I don't recommend GoDaddy. And FASO has great customer support and it's really cost effective, but primarily because they've got customer support and fantastic security. So you're not going to get hacked. So that's where I would go, is straight to FASO. Yes, you buy a domain separately, but FASO, usually when you sign up for FASO, you get a domain for free too. So check with whoever it is that you're thinking about hosting on, and that will cover that. I'm not on FASO because I'm a web designer, so I can do it myself. So I don't use FASO. I use for my membership site, I use Mighty Networks because that's a platform that caters to memberships and networking. And I am going to be moving in the next years, in the coming year, my course websites to a platform that specializes in hosting course websites. But yeah, I wouldn't try to start your own WordPress blog and website unless you know something about web design and unless you're comfortable with tech. If you're not comfortable with tech, or if you don't want to be bothered with the tech, go to FASO. Yeah, website. Janice says, how many paintings is enough to start with? 10 to 12. 10 to 12 on a website is plenty. Oh, Susan, I don't do that much with my website anymore. Carson and Stephanie, my team, do a lot on my website. So Carson is the one who's putting questions in here that I might have missed. And Stephanie is in the background today, but she just has been working heavily on my website now. So I have other people that do some of that stuff for me at this point. So I'm not doing it all on my own. And that's something that's really useful further down the road. Once you start making enough income on your business, one of the first things you want to do is hire somebody else to help you. GoDaddy is just shared hosting, Claire. It's not bad. It's not a bad place to get started, but GoDaddy doesn't have, they have some, their support's okay, but it means they're crowding lots and lots of websites onto one server. And if one gets infected, all the rest do. Kata, yes, FASO does have a direct selling mechanism. They have a shopping cart on their gold level. It comes with a shopping cart. So FASO and Squarespace have shopping carts that go along with them, and you're not having to buy that separately. Patricia, that cracks me up, my people. They're my team. They keep me going and they keep me online on what I need to be doing. Yes. So that would be Carson and Stephanie. If you're in the free Facebook group, you've run into them at one time or another because they keep me straight. Oh, Bob, I love that. That cracks me up. Bob says the fastest way to see how copyright laws work is to post a painting that you've done that has a Disney character in it. You'll hear from them right away. Yeah, you will. Disney is notorious for pursuing copyright infractions. And one of the most famous ones, or the ones that I remember the most, is when they went after a daycare center in, I think, South Georgia that had Mickey and Donald painted on the front wall of the building. And somebody posted a picture of it on social media. And Disney sent them a letter within a week. And they had to paint over it and they had to pay for having put that up there. So the big guys out there, like, who is the Getty is the big media owner of a lot of photographs. The Getty on a regular basis chases down copyright infringement from people who pull those photos off of the internet and painted them, or just popped the photo onto their website. And they send their little takedown notices along with a $5,000 invoice for your use of the image. So it's not a road you want to go down. So most of those photographs out there that you're seeing are owned by the Getty, and they will absolutely chase you down. Painting it does not get you away from the trouble of having used it. Janice says, do you have a goal for the number of new paintings you post? You can post old paintings. The posts that you make on social media don't have to just be new things. They can be older things as well. Both will work. So it can be both new and old, but it just needs to be yours. And Melanie says, if non-art posts are within your brand, is that okay? Yes. So that goes back to the cicada video that I was talking about. It goes back to talking about, you can absolutely write about the area that you paint, the subject that you paint, why it's important to you, and it might not have a painting in there at all. I've posted paintings. I don't paint my animals. I don't know why, but I don't. I have posted photographs of my dogs, my cats. I've posted tons of photos of my horse. I posted videos of my horse on my social media accounts because a lot of what I chose to paint came from the time that I spent in the country with my horse. So he was an important part of the process. So yeah, as long as it pertains to that. And to be honest, I think breaking it up with a cute cat, kitten, puppy, baby picture every now and then, or a goofy family member picture every now and then, is a good thing. You want to look like a human. Don't just, I don't think it's bad to post just your paintings. Lighten it up with some other stuff in there too. Absolutely. Nikki says, would you recommend putting finished works on social media or reserving that for your personal website? All of the above. So you need to put them in all of those places. And whether you end up working out a system where you're posting it on your website first and then on social media, that's generally what I do, but not what I always do. I would put, you need it on all of the above. It needs to go to your website, your social media accounts, and to your email list. All of them. And let me scroll back up in here and catch some of these questions that are on here. And if there are any others on there on the Facebook groups, Carson, that I've missed, pop them on in, because I know there are going to be some. It won't let me scroll back again. Oh, Susan, bless you. Susan says she's taking notes. Awesome. Awesome. Cool beans. Andrea says, how do you define your niche when you do lots of stuff? Well, Andrea, I have the advantage because you have been in the painter's path of already knowing what your niche is, and you do too. And when I look at your images, when I look at your Instagram feed, you focus on the portrait. That's your niche. And you're doing them for the most part, not only, but for the most part in graphite, you're drawing or charcoal. So you focus primarily on the human figure. That's your niche. And if then you begin to focus on a particular kind of person, that narrows the niche down. But your niche is the portrait. It's the human face for the most part. And yes, you do some other things. You do landscapes, and I've seen you do, trying to think if I've seen you do still lives. I know you may have interest in some of those other things, but you come back over and over and over again to the human figure. And that's your primary niche. And that's what the galleries that you've gotten into since you joined the course are focusing on too. I think you've developed a secondary niche, certainly with that gallery you got into in the last month after the plein air event, so that the landscapes are becoming something you do as well. But that first main one that you need to develop is the portraits. So you're not scattered at all. I can tell you that right now. You're pretty narrowed in. And don't overthink that. That's your niche. People who love figurative painting. People who love plein air landscapes. That's your niche. You don't have to go any further than that. Don't make it difficult. Claire says, I like to paint a lot of different styles of painting. Well, you can like to paint a lot of different styles, and you can like to paint a lot of different subjects, but in order to build that engaged audience, in order to build a platform that is going to work for building a thriving painting practice, you're going to have to create and focus in on one thing first. So if I go back to Andrea as the example, Andrea focused on the figure first. And she spent, Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, but she spent the first 90 days of the painter's path focusing on the figurative work. And she took a body of figurative work to show the gallery that was thinking about handling her work. Didn't mean she didn't do other stuff, but that was the work that was going to get her in front of an audience that was going to respond to the work. So you have to parking lot some of those things that you like and love and come back to them later and focus on a niche to really gain traction. If you're scattered far and wide, then you're not going to be able to get an audience that's going to be as responsive. So remember what I said at the beginning, that one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is that they think that their audience is everybody on the internet. They think their offer is everything that they're interested in. It's not. You got to narrow it down. Hey, Leilani, it's good to see you. But you got to narrow it down so that you really get into enough depth there in order to begin to build the emotional connection that you need to have in order for people to connect with you and want to buy your paintings. To make those compelling paintings, you've got to have that depth. To build that compelling relationship, you've got to have that depth. Go deep, not broad. That's a general rule in both painting and in business and human relationships. Tim says the niche is not just a piece of pie, it's creating your own pie. Bang on, spot on, right on. It is absolutely that. So I'm going to read that over again because Tim was exactly correct. So to quote him, what he says there is the niche is just not a piece of the pie. So it's not your piece of pie you're grabbing, it's creating your own pie. So write that down. It's a great way to phrase it. You want to create what marketing experts call a blue ocean. And it's a blue ocean by being so deep and so unique that there are not any other fish swimming in it, that you are a unique individual thing. So that's a great way of phrasing it. And subject lines. Subject lines, you have to be really careful with subject lines. Yeah, you want it to grab attention. Subject lines are headlines, like the headline of a newspaper, the headline in a magazine. And what you don't want it to be is clickbait. And what so many of them turn out to be is clickbait. So what you want to be really careful of with writing headlines, whether it's for Facebook or for your email or for your blog posts, is you want your headlines to be intriguing and compelling, but you don't want them to be clickbaity. So that's the best advice I can give to that. Let's see what else we have. I think I see some new messages coming down there in the bottom. If I'm skipping anybody's, I will come back in and look for those again shortly. And Carol says she's taking notes too. Excellent. So yeah, Nancy, it is good to focus on one thing, one subject, style, medium, thing. You have to focus in on one at a time. You can go across mediums if you're laser focused on your theme and your subject. Candace says, can you use, I answered that one already. Sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, Tracy said, this is a good one. Tracy says, is it possible to comment on other people's posts on Facebook as a business page instead of a personal one? Also joining Facebook groups as a business page. Yes and yes. Some groups don't allow Facebook pages to join and comment. For example, in my free group, Artwork Living, we don't allow Facebook pages to join. And that's very intentional because it's a no promo site. People can't promote their Facebook page, business page, their Instagram business account, their website, their workshop, their online course in there because it makes it too cluttered. It's about the artist and it's about the artwork. We have one day a week where people can share their Instagram accounts or their websites only. So you have to be really careful with that. Check to see the group rules. If they allow Facebook pages to join, then it'll show that when you click the join button. And yes, that is a good idea because every time you make a comment as a page, it leads back to your Facebook page. So yeah, I have some tricks for moving people from your personal profile to your business page using that we talk about in the course. So Tracy also says, I have no idea what my niche is. Is this Tracy Lester? I think you do kind of have a niche. I'm going to call BS on that, but I want you to stick up a whole bunch of your paintings and look at them. So she says, I have no idea what my niche is. I'm trying lots of different subjects at the moment. Yeah, you are, but there is a niche developing. So as you're developing your compelling body of work, you might try different subjects. You might experiment with different styles. And it's okay to show all of those on your Instagram and Facebook page. I think that's fine. When you have developed your compelling body of work and you're at the point of building that consistent series, that's when you need to narrow in and niche down. People enjoy watching the journey. And I know that you get a lot of response on your Instagram account, especially after we did that challenge, and you get some really great responses on there, and you're really consistent about posting. And that is exactly what you need to be doing right now. And keep building those skills and developing that consistent body of work. you really are at the point where you need to figure out what it is that is intriguing to you, what's compelling that you want to build into that 10 to 12 paintings that relate to each other. Because your paintings are good enough to do that right now. And you can experiment forever. So that's my little pointy boot kicking you in the behind to think about what you find yourself looking at and being intrigued by, and then beginning to narrow down there a little bit. Because Tracy, I think you're ready for that. We'll buzz on that one over in the membership some more. So somebody's asking about setting up a website. Is it okay to upload photos of paintings that have already sold if you mark them that way? Absolutely, I would mark them sold. I think that lets people know that you've got a market for your paintings. So go for it. Definitely do that. Then do you put painting prices on FASO on your website? Yeah, Jane. Absolutely. Unless you're only selling through a gallery and they don't want you to post the prices, you can post the prices. Now, I teach a way of launching your paintings, of selling your paintings that involves holding the prices back and then releasing them as you release all of the paintings. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to launch your paintings, then you hold the prices back. But in general, yeah, it's perfectly fine to post prices on there, because people are not going to know that they can buy it unless you tell them that they can. And Robin says, how about if you do both abstract and more realism as well? That's another good question. So those are two different subjects and two different themes. And same thing as I was just saying to Tracy, as you're developing your body of work, it's fine to explore both. As you have that body of work, you're going to have to pick between the two of them to develop your niche. It doesn't mean you give the other up altogether. It may mean that you just only show one of those every now and then as an intriguing, hey, see what else I like to do kind of thing. But to get one up and running, you need to focus on that one. So get one up and running, and then you can have two bodies of work that you have on your website and on your social media accounts. But it's really distracting and confusing to the audience when they see things that are really, really, really different show up in the same feed. So Nancy says, I paint Florida and North Carolina. How do I choose? That's a landscape. I don't think you have to choose between the two places. It's the kind of landscapes that you choose in those two places. So my advice there would be to journal about it and think about what's connecting the two together. That's the best way to really narrow down on what that niche is. Yeah, Claire asked, can you show, oops, it just jumped on me. Can you show different subjects and ask your readers to learn which is most popular? You can, but that's painting to the market. So I would not do that. I would follow what you find most intriguing and then present it to your readers. So I have done things like asking people which study I should work from to make a painting. So I might post 3 different sketches or 3 different photos. Which should I do? And I'll tell y'all a secret. I'm going to paint them all. So I'm not really letting them pick which one I'm going to paint. I'm going to paint them all. But it does draw the viewer in and get them engaged. But I wouldn't let them choose which style you're going to do, because then you're painting to the market instead of to your heart. So you need to paint to your curiosity. So lay out all of the paintings in the different styles that you've played with, and which one of them draws you in and makes you feel more intrigued. And that's the one you need to go with. You got to go narrow. No, I wouldn't connect to Fine Art America without going into details. I don't use Fine Art America at all. And I would not attach it to FASO. I would use something else altogether. I would look at Printful or some of the other sources rather than Fine Art America. It's just my own personal experience. Yeah, MailChimp, Mary Beth, is where the emails where people sign up for emails and where you make mass broadcasts. It's illegal for you to broadcast email from your Gmail account or from your personal account out to your address book on a regular basis for business purposes. Now, you can do that absolutely if you have a party coming up or something like that, but you can't, as a business, just do a mass email from your address book without permission. You need some way to prove you've got permission, and email service providers are what are the groups that give you that tool. Susan, that is a great niche. Animals of the Southwest. That's it exactly. Jane Wright, that's it exactly. I paint sites from travel. That's a narrow niche. Your niche is that you love to travel, and I have definitely noticed that, and you love painting those places. So journal about that, my friend. Awesome. Awesome. Are there any other questions that I think I've skipped some that were similar to ones that I'd already answered? I think I've got them all. We are up now almost to 2 hours. So I want to say thank you to everybody for joining in, and remind you that session 3, video 3 TV is going to be on Monday at 4. And we'll be talking about what you do with that audience once you've got them, because they're not going to help you have impact. They're not going to help you be successful and thrive unless you think of how you're going to channel them towards having an impact. So we'll be talking about offers, sales, and impact on Monday. Be sure to watch for that. It'll be, if you're joining via Zoom, it'll be the same link. If you are on Facebook in our Artwork Living group, it will be right back in there again, just as it is today. Happy painting, everybody. I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye-bye for now.